Hi, this is Melissa, the Insurance Exam Queen, and today we're going to look at analyzing the breakdown of your score report. So there's generally like two different types of reports depending on your state test provider, and these are the two most common ones. Now, this one is definitely the most easiest one. So let's take a look at this one first. If this is your score report, this is all you need to do is just the math. So it says you have 105 points, you only got 58. So you pop open your calculator and you simply say, okay, I got 105 points and I needed 50 I needed 105, I only got 58. So I need 47 more points to passing. So I need 47 more points to pass. And then we just do the math down the side. And I'm not the best math person, but let's see, we got, okay, 1530 is 15, 5, 11, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, yep, 8, 10, 3, 6, 10, 2, 3, 7, and 8. So all I did there was just find the difference between your score and the max score. Then your job is to find the highest ones. So 15, that's pretty high. 11, that's pretty high. 10, that's pretty high. 10, that's pretty high. So now we need 47. So 15 plus 11, that's what? 26, 36, 46. So it's not quite enough. So you're going to need some more chapters too. So this 8 one is pretty high. This 8 one is pretty high. And then those will tell you the points, the chapters that you need to do. So if you were to study, all of these chapters, you have 15 points plus 11 points plus 8 points plus 10 plus 10 plus 8 is 62 points in total. So you know that if you study these chapters, there's 62 points available in those chapters. You only need 47. So if you study just this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters out of all these chapters you have to study, it's 62 points available and you only need 47 to pass. So that's how you analyze this score sheet. Now I will say though, since we're talking about it, that anything commercial, these are going to be, or BOP, these are going to be harder. So anything that is commercial is going to be harder. So in this example, we have at least one commercial chapter. See how they got 0 points in it? It's because it's so hard. Because commercial is a lot harder, I would actually encourage people to skip them and find another section that's easier. Like general insurance concepts is pretty easy. It's just a bunch of definitions, and if you don't know it, then you should email me and I'll send you all the definitions for the general insurance chapter. It's very easy. So you just got to memorize. So that's an easy 5 points. So if it's too hard to try and get the commercial point, then just go for those points. But you want to, find the ones with big points. Like it's not valuable to study this one, whichever this one is. It's only 2 points. That's not valuable to study. So that's how you do that exam breakdown. Then we have the more tricky one, the hard one. Like, what is this even? Like, what? Okay, so let's take a look at this one. So this one is the Texas, this one happens to be Texas, doesn't matter what state it is. Now this one doesn't really show us a fair representation. What we do see right away is that you need 70 and you got 62, so you need 8% more to pass on this example. What we need to do though is, what's important to understand here is that this chapter is not necessarily equal to this one or equal to this one or equal to this one. Each of these chapters is weighted differently. And typically what I do when I am filling out the exam score sheet is I will go to, let me show it here. I go to examfx.com because, I worked there for the last 4 years and they're amazing. And this is where I learned everything from. I go to their site. So if you just went straight to examfx.com, just their regular website, you click on insurance, and then, you hover on insurance and then click view state requirements. Then you're going to scroll down to find your state. So we are looking at Texas, TTT, Texas. And then this score sheet was the property and casualty exam. So we're going to that one. And again, this is just your score sheet. Go to your state, right? So then you can see here the chapter breakdown. That insurance terms is 22% of the exam. So then I go back over here and I say, okay, insurance terms is 22%. Then it says policy and provisions is 17 and types is 19. So let's do policy provisions is 17%, types of policies is 19% and 19%. And then they do, because there's property and casualty, each types of property gets its own insurance terms and types of casualty gets its own insurance terms. So these are actually wrapped up inside. These actually go together. So when you analyze, where's that? Yeah. When you analyze the score sheet, you kind of actually have to consider, the policy provisions bar, this one and this one. They go together. So you have to kind of like balance your score. Seeing why they do it that way, I don't know, but both of those represent the score between that chapter. Because when you go to study, like if you're on ExamFX or whatever course you have, they won't have two separate chapters. They'll be combined as one. But when they do the score sheet, they break up the chapters. So, and then common to all lines, how much was that one? Common to all lines was 14, and then the other one was 9. So 14% and then 9%. Now, the quickest thing to do is just look at the biggest one. So 22%, you actually do have quite a few points there. 19 is pretty big. You do have, some good points there. 19, you have some good points there. 14 is pretty decent. You got a good amount of points there. So these would be, all the ones to want to study. However, I will say again, types of property and types of casualty, these are huge chapters. And they include commercial. So it's going to be difficult necessarily to try and lock in all of these points. When it comes to types of property, focus mostly on homeowners, dwelling, and then flood. And then when it comes to casualty, focus mostly on auto and commercial auto, which is not super hard. It's of the commercial policies to learn. Commercial auto is a little bit easier than learning CGL or occurrence or whatever. So of those chapters, if types of property policies is one of your chapters, stick to homeowners, dwelling, and flood. For those, you can ignore the commercial, the BOP, the CPP. It's just too much complex information to understand. But then what I really notice here is insurance terms and related concepts. That's a tiny chapter. So that chapter is only like 8 to 9 pages worth of reading, whereas types of property is like 100 pages. So this is just having done this for so long, I just know how big chapters are. So when I analyze this, I would say, honestly, yes, see how like types of property has a little bit more points available than insurance, and they're almost the same. But because types of property is 100 pages worth of study, it's going to be a lot harder to get those points than it would be to get these points. Trying to study to access these points, you're talking about hundreds of page or 100 pages, or not exactly 100, but a lot of pages, maybe 80 to 100. Studying these, you're only talking about 8 pages. So it's going to be a lot easier to get insurance terms and related concepts than it is to get types of property. And that's true for every state. If your exam breakdown looks like the Texas one, so if your breakdown looks like this, where it's got these same chapters, everything I'm saying right now works. Insurance terms and related concepts is small. Oh, I can't write on there. Small to study. So this one is a small chapter, only like 8 pages to study. Provisions is a small chapter, again, only like 8 to 10 pages. And between those two, it's a big chunk. Studying 10 pages here is way easier than studying 100 pages here and 100 pages here. So that's an analysis of that one. Now, you can even take this a step further. If this, looking at these bars is weird to you, An easier way of doing this would actually be to make a bar graph. So I found this website called nces.ed.gov. I just typed in make a pie chart, and it was like the second Google link. So what I did, and this is what it looks like. Oh, that's not what I want to do. This is what it looks like. So I typed in the name of the exam so that I, have it. Then I put in the names of the chapter titles, and then I put in the value that each chapter represents. And what this will do for me is create the chart so that I can I can see it better, right? This makes a lot more sense to us to see that this whole circle represents all the questions they're going to ask you on the exam. And you can see how some chapters matter more than others. Like this red chapter here is insurance terms. That takes up the biggest chunk. That's the biggest piece of pie. More questions will come from insurance terms than any other chapter. So what you can do here is you would look at the bars. So you'd say, okay, so red is insurance terms. So I look at insurance terms. Let me erase all of this so that we can get a clean slate here. So if we look at insurance, so insurance terms is here, and insurance terms is here. And again, they separate them out because there's a difference between property and casualty. But if we look at insurance terms, so you got about, I think if this represents 0 to 100, right? This is 0 and this is 100. We're about halfway, and then you're a little bit more than halfway on here. So I would say you're maybe about 60%. So if this whole piece represents all of that, you got about this many right. And then you can fill it in. So this is what you got right, and this is where you can grow. You have that much room to grow in types of P&C exam. Then let's look at the next chapter, policy provisions. So we have policy provisions is here and here. And ooh, you got pretty good here. Oh, you actually okay, yeah, you like in this example, we only have a little bit of points left. So it would be like this almost. So there's not a ton of points available. So this is what you got right. This is where you have room to grow. So you can kind of see already that there's more room to grow by learning the P&C basics or the insurance terms chapter than there is in the provisions chapter. Then you can, keep going. Types of property policies, that looks like about 40%. So types of property is green, so not quite half. So we probably go like right there. It's not quite half. Woo! I didn't mean to do that. Can you get it back? I only want to erase this little one. There we go. So that's what so then again, this is what you got right. This is how much you have to grow. So you can see, you have a pretty good sized chunk in there. What's our next one? Types of casualty. So let's look at types of casualty. You got about a little bit more than half, maybe like 55. So we would fill that out. So again, everything that's like covered in the purple marker that I'm coloring in, this is what you got right, and everything that's left is how much room you have to grow. Then let's look at the blue one, Texas common to all lines. So that's the common to all lines. A little bit more than half, probably at that 60% mark. So again, if this is exactly half, then it would be a little bit more than that. And then our last one, P&C law, again, that's about a little bit more than half. So then after you filled it in, you can see that your most room to grow is, let me get a different color here. This is your most room to grow. Oh, that wasn't very big. This one has the most room to grow. This one has a good amount of room to grow. This is good. So you can see that your biggest room to grow would be types of property, right? That's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. So we took these chapters and we made them into pieces of pie so we can understand how much of the exam that they make up. Then we compared our score to how much we already know. And so the colored in purple is what we already know, how many points we already got right. And then what's left open is how much we have to grow. So types of property would be the biggest focus. Then policy provision, or then insurance terms. Then what is this, types of casualty, and so on and so forth. So I would recommend to this person to study, oops, that's the same color. I would study homeowners, dwelling, then that will take care of this chapter. And then for the types of casualty, which is this one, I would focus, let me change my marker here to keep it all the same. For types of casualty, I would focus on auto and commercial auto. And then for this whole chapter, I mean, it's like everything in here. There's not one specific thing, but I did have a YouTube video called Policy Structure, and that one will answer. I'm not saying this is the only thing you should study from that chapter. Study all of it. I just happen to have a YouTube video on policy structure, but also my general insurance terms chapter would fit for that as well. So on my YouTube channel, look for the policy structure video plus the general terms, and that will help you with that chapter. So this was an analysis of two different property and casualty score sheets. We did, I don't even know what state this was, so maybe Pennsylvania, I think. So if it's like this, it's very easy. You just do the math and find the ones with the most points. If it looks like this, you have to remember that each of these has a different amount of questions that will come from them. So you have to look at those percentages by going to examfx.com, find your percentages. And then if you really want to go intense, you can turn it into a bar chart or a pie chart so you can see exactly what it is, and be able to identify how big each chapter is. So this is what I do when I analyze a score sheet. When people send me a score sheet, I analyze it, and then I give them insight on the things that I just said. Well, don't avoid commercial. It's too hard. Focus on this. So if you email me, and my email is insurance exam queen, insuranceexamqueen@gmail.com. And you can email me your score sheet, and I can analyze it for you, or you can analyze it yourself. So that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'm sending you all the love and all the vibes that you pass your exam.